Hello, this is just the revision to Unit 3 project. So I was told to do problems 3, 5, 6, and then also finish number 7, which I didn't finish. So with question number 3, so 3 was sine theta equals tangent theta. And so with that, I'm just going to do what I did before and make that a sine theta over cosine theta. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move this cosine and bring it over to the other side. So I'm gonna do sine theta cosine theta equals sine theta. And then from there, I'm gonna bring the sine theta over so I make it a 0. So sine theta cosine theta minus sine theta equals 0. And from there, I can factor the sine. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go sine theta and then cosine theta minus 1 parentheses equals 0. And from there on, I can just do the unit circle, and I can find that sine theta is equal to 0, and 0 on for sine, quadrant 1 and 4, is 0 and pi. And then for cosine minus 1, cosine theta minus 1, I can do cosine theta equals 1, and with that, the theta equals 0. So my answer will be 0 and pi. And then that's for answer number 3. And for answer number 5, the question was sine theta plus 2 cosine squared theta equals 1. And so what I did here was I brought the 1 over, so I did sine theta plus 2 cosine squared theta plus 1 equals 0. And then I did sine theta plus cosine 2 theta equals 0. And then I did sine theta plus 1 minus 2 sine theta, or 2 sine squared theta equals 0. This was because I could use the trig identity from cosine 2 theta to create 1 minus 2 sine squared theta. And then from there, I did 2 sine squared theta minus sine theta minus 1, so I just moved it over. And then from here, I can factor. So I did 2 sine theta plus 1, and then sine theta minus 1 equals 0. And with that, I brought it over here, and this one over there, and 2 sine theta plus 1 equals 0, and then I bring the 1 over, so it's 2 sine theta equals -1, and then I divided each side by 2, so sine theta equals -1/2, and on the unit circle, that is 7 pi over 6 and 11 pi over 6. And for this one, I did sine theta minus 1, and I just brought the 1 over, so sine theta equals 1. And with that, theta equals pi over 2. So the answers are 7 pi over 6, 11 pi over 6, and pi over 2. And then for the number 6, I believe, number 6, the question was 2 secant theta sine theta plus 2 equals 4 sine theta plus secant theta. And so just right off the bat, I'm going to move this over to the other side and make it equal to 0. So I'm going to do 2 secant theta sine theta plus 2 minus 4 sine theta minus secant theta equals 0. And from there, I can do factoring by grouping. So I can do 2 secant theta sine theta minus 4 sine theta. And then I'm just going to do that and subtract by secant theta plus 2, which equals 0. And then from here, I can take out a secant, or actually I can take out a sine. So I'm going to do 2 sine theta secant theta minus 2, and then subtract 1. I'm taking the 1 out. So then I can make a secant minus 2 and just make that negative. And then from here, I can do 2 sine theta minus 1 secant theta minus 2 equal to 0, and do my arrows. And then I have 2 sine theta minus 1 equals 0. So what I'm going to do is just bring the 1 over, so it's going to be 1 divided by 2. Sine theta equals 1/2, which is equivalent to pi over 6 and 5 pi over 6. And then on this side, secant theta minus 2 equals 0. I'm going to move the 2 over, so it'll be secant theta equals 2. And then with secant is just 1 over cosine theta. And with that, I can bring the 2 over and do a 2 cosine theta and make it equal to 1. And then from there, I'm going to divide each side by 2. So it'll be cosine theta equals 1/2. And the cosine theta 1/2 is equivalent to pi over 3 and 5 pi over 3. So the answers there are pi over 6, 5 pi over 6, pi over 3, and 5 pi over 3. And now to question 7. I didn't get to finish that in the first video, but so the question for 7 is cosine 2x plus 3 cosine x plus 2 equals 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 2 from here and move it onto the other side. Do 2 cosine squared theta. Actually, this is theta. And I'm going to subtract by 1 plus 3 cosine theta plus 2 equals 0. From here, I can do 2 cosine squared theta plus 3 cosine theta plus 1, which equals 0. And then I do 2 cosine theta plus 1, and then cosine theta plus 1 here. And that's my factored form. And from there, I can just do 2 cosine theta plus 1 and do the same thing where I move that over. So it'll be 2 cosine theta minus equals negative 1, subtract by 2. And so it'll be cosine theta equals negative 1/2, which is equivalent to 2 pi over 3 and 4 pi over 3. And on this side, I do cosine theta plus 1, and just bring that 1 over, so it'll be cosine theta equals negative 1. And then the theta of negative 1 is equivalent to pi. Cosine theta of negative 1 is pi. So the answers to that would be 2 pi over 3, 4 pi over 3, and theta equals pi. And that's for question 7.